What's good, everybody? Lucky Lefty, we're back in the building. Special Saturday edition. Jerron Jones, MALIK, ZAIRE will be joining us shortly. I am pleased to have with me the legend himself, Reggie Brooks.
What's going on, Sean? What's happening, buddy?
Oh, man. Reg, I'm feeling good. What about you? that home playoff game you've been talking about all season is right around the corner.
It is definitely right around the corner. And, again, last time I checked it was snowing up in South Bend. So would love to see one of those southern teams come to town.
Oh, so you like that Alabama matchup? You like that matchup early on?
I would have to say so. But, again, not thrilled the fact that, Milroe is a young man. He can run the ball. So, I mean, we got to be able to stop the run first and foremost, and that's every week. But it's particularly needed, if you're going to, ground and pound. And what we've been able to do offensively is, like I said, run the ball. That's our forte. We need to be able to stop the run. And if you got Alabama, you definitely going to have to stop the run.
So let's get to it. Let me get your overall thoughts because we have not shout out to our boy Oscar McBride, his team. Yeah. They're fighting and playing for a state championship in the state of California tonight. That's why he's not with us. So Notre Dame fans, send some vibes that way. Hopefully Big O and his Marietta crew can bring out the victory tonight. The state champion. That's right. Take care of business. You already know they're going to run the ball. If you know Oscar, they're going to run the ball. You already know they're running the ball.
Got to, baby.
Absolutely.
Down there, rock.
As you saw, the clock hit 00 in the Coliseum last Saturday, Reg, because you've been to all the home games and you have traveled to a lot of the away games. For you, encapsulate everything, the ups, the downs, the clock hits 00, home playoff game on the horizon. As a former player, like what came to your mind in that very moment as you saw them defeat USC last weekend?
Oh, it was beautiful. It is a beautiful sight. Anytime USC loses or Notre Dame beats USC, that's epic. That's our rival. That's our, you talk about Michigan and Ohio State. That's our Michigan and Ohio State as it relates to our rival, and to see us win in that fashion, especially with kind of a couple of walk-off INTs, it don't get any better than that. It does not get any better than that. And just seeing how these young men, because they were going after Christian Gray. I mean, that was the best receiving core I think Notre Dame has faced, and they were taking some lumps early, but. Just watching, again, that was the worst I've seen our defense play all year.
Yeah.
And so that's something, again, that, I know they'll get to work on it, but how they finished, that's what was impressive. Because you got kid Christian Gray, who they're going after, and he has a defensive back mentality because you have to have a short memory and to be able to come back, continue to battle back. And we all know, Xavier Watts, we know who he is and what he does. So, but to see that young man compete, take his lumps, but continue to fight, that was impressive.
Now,
and then offensively, my boy J Love.
Talk about it, Reg. As a fellow running back, please explain for Notre Dame fans what makes him different. Because Jadarian Price is a darn good running back.
Yeah.
Liz Williams is going to be a really good running back. Keegan Young is going to be what makes Ford different?
His ability to cut is the slight cuts that he makes and his acceleration. That just jumps out to me more than anything else. Once he makes a decision, he gets downhill, but he gets down. Jadarian, he's explosive too. But Ford has a little extra gear and a different burst, and then he runs with power too. Because like I said, he's driving the pile. He doesn't just go right down. He has great pad level. He plays behind his pads, but he's very fluid. And the guy he reminds me of most is that I played with was Ricky Waters. I mean, really good feet.
Good call.
Like I said, I always said Ricky Watters had some of the best feet in terms of a running back I've ever seen. His ability to shift and move, but then re-accelerate quickly. That is very rare, very difficult to do, because once you stop your feet, and that was the thing. He doesn't stop his feet. And that's the thing about Jeremiah. Just like Ricky, God just didn't stop. He doesn't stop his feet, and he's out, and he just looks so fluid and smooth doing it.
Now, let me ask you something. Playoff game coming up. What in your mind has been, give me your top 3 stories of this season? As you take a step back and take an overall look at the entirety of the season, what are the 3 major things that jump out to Reggie Brooks?
First and foremost, the number one story for me is Riley Leonard and his progress. And he was taking some heat early on, and rightfully so. I mean, he was not playing well. He did not play with confidence. And he was trying to aim the ball. He was trying to be perfect. But somewhere along, that a 10-game win streak, he started to just be himself. And I've just seen a really nice transition of him from being, kind of that hired gun to come in. And we got to remember, he didn't play in the spring.
Yeah.
Didn't get really any time with the receivers, the running backs, the tight ends. And then he was banged up early, had to have another surgery early. So he missed the early part of the fall ball. So going into the season, everything was new to him. You got a new offensive system, new offensive coordinator, and just to see his maturation and development in this system over the past 6-7 games has been encouraging, because Notre Dame will only go as far as he takes them, because he is that chief. And the other thing about that is he's not trying to lead. And I think early part of the season, he was trying to be something that he wasn't, and try to present this is what I perceive I'm supposed to be. And when he started playing within himself and started to do what he does, you could see the comfort level. He started to make the throws because he was playing with a lot more confidence. And I think that's the number one storyline, is that as he progresses, he gains more confidence in what he's doing. That's going to bode well for this Notre Dame football team into the playoffs. Number 2, this defense.
Okay.
You hear about it, and I finally got some numbers of where we were defensively. I mean, they're strong, really strong against the pass. I knew the secondary was good. I mean, I knew
the best defense Notre Dame has had of all time.
Oh, see, left. Oh, whoa. Oh, now that I got welcome in, Malik. Reg, can I tell you how this I want to solve this, but go ahead and finish up your stories. I'm gonna tell you something. I feel like Malik and I argued about this literally for an hour on the show. But go ahead, finish up your top stories.
So defensively, this back end, elite. But not only is it elite, with talent, but depth. You have a true freshman and a true sophomore starting on the corners.
Mm-hmm.
And you got Xavier Watts, who's all-world, Jordan Clark, who's playing well in the slot, Adon Shula, that's really, again, coming into his own, and he's developed. And they're a much more effective tackling defense than I've seen Notre Dame have in the under Coach Freeman and Coach Kelly. This is one of the best tackling defenses I've seen, and that has played well in their favor. I do feel
of the game of the school.
No, okay, we'll continue. And number 3, special teams. The block punts, the fakes. I mean, I I haven't seen a return game yet, really, but their ability to flip the field and special teams has really had an impact on how well this team has done. Giving the offense a short field, backing them up from a defensive standpoint, that has played a huge factor in the success Notre Dame has had in this special teams. And people forget about it. Everybody's like, oh, special teams, that's the afterthought. And for the longest time, that's what it seemed like it was. But I see the effects of the block punts, of the fakes, the coverage. It's flipping the field. It's making a difference, and it's showing up in the stat sheet. They had their banquet yesterday, and one of the guys again, the young guys stepping up. Bryce Young was the special teams player of the year.
Yeah.
You see the excitement from these young guys, but you have such a nice balance with the veteran guys that they work well together, and you can see just a more seamless mesh from all three phases. And that's why I said, the storyline starts with, to me, Riley Leonard. The better he gets, the more comfortable he gets, the better the rapport he develops with the OC, the better opportunities Notre Dame will have in winning that first playoff game.
You mentioned the banquet, which is so funny, man, because I grew up with the banquet being so connected to recruiting and closing the classes, right?
That's like one of the biggest recruiting days.
It was one of the biggest recruiting days traditionally at Notre Dame. That banquet, the football banquet, and now it's kind of like an afterthought in connection with recruiting. But you talk about Xavier Watts winning Defensive Player of the Year. Now I think they got it right. I do think that Riley Leonard is the MVP. He's not the best offensive player. Now, if it was best offensive player, Jeremiah Love in a landslide. But most valuable, I can see someone explaining why Riley Leonard should be the most valuable player on that offense.
He's playing the most difficult position.
Left, you're about to start in on Riley Leonard today, man. The kid has turned the season around. He's gotten better. Yes, he is.
He's still a work in progress, but I'm good with that. I'm good where he is.
Valuable is there's no work. The work's completed. That's what most valuable says.
I don't agree with that. I mean, you can always get better. So if and again, just in talking to some of the
Most
stuff
improved. See, that's where most improved comes in.
See, Left is babysitting. That's why he's not on camera right now. Lucky Lefty podcast. MALIK ZAIRE, Reggie Brooks, myself, Shaun Davis. I'm sure momentarily we'll be joined by Jerron Jones, Oscar McBride, his Marietta squad. They're out there fighting for a state championship today out in the state of California. So I'll give it to you like this. We were talking about the turnaround for the season and the run that Notre Dame has been on to end the season after defeating USC. And we were having an objective conversation, and MALIK stated that if Notre Dame wins the national championship, this will be the greatest season in Notre Dame history. And the winning more game, I understood. I said, I understand that side. I said, but I think you need to understand. The only pushback I would have is Notre Dame beat number 1, 2, 3, and 6 in '88, and all 4 of those teams were elite programs at the time. I said the gauntlet of the '88 team was totally different. Even now, when I'm looking at these 2 teams playing the Big 12, and I'm like, Notre Dame would demolish both of these teams. Like, they're Notre Dame, whoever they play in the first round, I expect Notre Dame would probably be favored, other than maybe facing Alabama
or Tennessee.
Other than that, Notre Dame is going to face a team. If they get if Arizona State has to come to South Bend, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something, okay? Let me tell you something. All of the stuff you're seeing happening with Iowa State linebackers not being able to chase down the quarterback, see, that's No.
And missed tackles.
Missed tackles, all of that.
Missed tackles.
Fumbles, turnovers. Reg, I just don't see the same gauntlet. Now, as far as everything being different and having to win a tournament at the end of the season, I totally agree. But on the flip side, we can say, well, after week 2, it pretty much was win or go home for Notre Dame.
Yeah.
As far as getting in the playoff. But it was like that every game. From the first game against Michigan, it was like that every week for the 88 squad. Like every week, it was like we win or there is no national championship.
Yeah.
So,
no, that was always the mindset. You know, I will have to say that I you know, as it relates to, you know, present day and all the dynamics that are going on, I can see where Left can come from this being the greatest championship because of the adversity that they face, not necessarily on field as it would be all the things that, you know, are permeating through college football right now, and to stay focused and to manage, you know, the off-field stuff just as much as the on-field stuff. You have to take that into consideration.
I agree. I agree with that.
The game is today, and also expectations. You know, I mean, I don't see anyone thinking or ever thought that Notre Dame would win a national championship this year. So if they were to achieve that after, again, that stumble against Northern Illinois, because they could have gone the other way, you know, especially today in today's age where, you know, people are quick to throw their hands up and not persevere. Yeah. And I like what, you know, Coach Freeman's, you know, motto, choose hard, you know, because you make a choice every day you step on that field, every day you wake up. We're always making a choice of what we're going to do. If we're going to arise to the challenge and meet the challenge and the adversity, are you going to fold? And seeing how this team has, you know, progressed and, you know, with the injuries and, you know, the questions and I mean, where was it? Was it Miami, Ohio? When was the game where they were literally booing? Our fans were booing us.
No, that was Northern Illinois.
I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
Your classmates, you know, you gotta go sit in class with these folks. They booing you. Come on, that takes a strong mentality to say, okay, we're just gonna keep doing what we're doing. And I love that because you have to have togetherness in the locker room to weather the storms that, you know, you were seeing on a regular basis. You know, what they were dealing with all year long.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Lucky Lefty podcast. I thought it was a healthy debate. I think just for me, I understand the toughness of having to win a tournament. Like you said, you know, things being different in the college football landscape. But, you know, Notre Dame started off ranked number 6 this year. The 88 squad started off ranked 16th.
Yeah.
And wasn't favored against any of the top teams they faced. So, except they were favored against West Virginia in the Fiesta Bowl. They were favored in their matchup. That was the 1-2 matchup. But I think, man, look, I think what we've seen is something, and I would love for you to talk about this, because there were rumors prior to the Northern Illinois game. I believe there were some rumblings that and talks of contract extension, right? For Marcus Freeman, right? And here comes the Northern Illinois loss. And sometimes you need, like in photograph development, there's a chemical in the second tray that's called stop that, right? Where the first tray is the development tray, right? To start developing what's going to come forth. And the stop that kind of neutralizes the development, so it kind of tests it and sets the stage for it to be tested before it goes to the third tray, which is the fixer tray, right, to finalize things. And I think Northern Illinois was kind of like that stop to kind of prove, all right, Marcus Freeman, let's see what you really developed here. Like, no one wanted it to happen that way, and that just happened to be the moment. If it hadn't been Northern Illinois, it probably would have been another moment in the season where it's like, okay, this is the third season. This is your program. This is no more intermingling of what was left over and residue. This is officially your program. I think that was the bookmark where we started to realize going forward, okay, let's see how Marcus Freeman's program looks at Notre Dame. And to be honest, it looks darn good right now. We sit here on this championship weekend.
Agreed. And that comes from the development aspect of things. They're, at pretty much every position outside of quarterback, you've seen them develop the players. Because again, we can't say that they develop quarterbacks, at the, quarterback position, because we have that kind of the hired gun mentality. I will say I'm glad that, Coach Freeman made the statement that our next quarterback is already on the roster. That was very encouraging. But when you kind of lay it all out, and again, I didn't hear about the rumblings, but because again, that's got Notre Dame in trouble before, where, you have a little bit of success and let's give him an extension. And again, not that I don't think he is deserving of one. I'm just not a advocate of, like, after a couple of seasons, you're the savior. That's just, I don't agree with that mindset, because it's gotten, the last two coaches has gotten Notre Dame in trouble in that regard. But you look at how they've played since the Northern Illinois game. You look at the development of the defensive back position, because again, you lost, a top 10 pick in Benjamin Morris. And here comes Christian Gray and Leonard Moore, jump right in there. And I mean, I'm not saying that they didn't miss a beat, but they look pretty damn good on that. Them edges look pretty damn sound. You lose one of your top defensive linemen, and boom, Riley Mills. These guys step up, at the right time. And then you look at that second. I mean, the linebacker position. A lot of young guys and older guys that are playing well together. That's because they're being developed, and there's a progression. You see guys getting better, and you even see these young guys getting better as the season progresses. Bryce Young coming in, playing. Yeah, he has the talent. It's one thing to have the talent. It's another thing to have the discipline and mentality to listen and learn and develop. You look at the running back position. You named off, 4 guys that you just rolled through them? I'm like, man, that was very reminiscent of what I remember when I was in Notre Dame. And this offensive line.
Reg, didn't I tell you to give them some time? I told you. I said, give them some time.
Yeah, you're right. I mean,
I think this is the biggest. Can I tell you what the biggest mistake was? I would love to hear your feedback on this, but it was genius, and it really made the difference. The biggest mistake was putting those two freshmen side by side.
Yeah, I didn't understand the fact you had 2 freshmen on one side in the first place.
Yeah.
And then the guys that, like the Pat Cougans, the guys that they benched. But that also speaks to those young men's, mentality and commitment to team. They didn't bitch and moan about it. They just bided their time. And I think a guy went down, they stepped up. And you saw this unit gel, because when you're talking to offensive line, you have to have 5 guys that are in unison, mind, body, and spirit, to be as effective as you need them to be. And as this year progressed, I mean, I'm seeing guys stand on the double team longer, getting up to the next level, working together as a unit versus, just being, I'm the guy. And I will say I was a little hesitant to see them constantly putting the, Knapp out on an island as a true freshman on that left side. I'm like, do they not like this kid? But apparently they knew what they're doing, because he's progressed. He's gotten better. He's taken on the challenges, and he hasn't allowed himself to mentally check out. And that's been the huge difference with this group is that they weathered the storm together, fought through it, gotten better. Because again, it's different when you're in the locker room versus on the outside looking in. So I'd never, try to critique a program because I'm not there every day. I will talk about the play on the field from the game, but if you're not in that locker room, if you're not on that, in the practice every day and you're not seeing, that level of connectedness, you're just talking. And that's why I love this coaching staff. I've had the opportunity to be around them. They genuinely like each other, whether it's offense or defense. I've mentioned this before. That's rare when you have both sides of the ball that work together with each other. In that unit, and the coaching staff, both offense and defense, and then Coach Freeman being that leader, they mesh extremely well together, and it shows on the field because you got guys, offensive guys that hang out with defensive guys, and vice versa. It makes a difference when you know somebody, and if you like somebody, you're more inclined to do a little bit more to make sure that person is as successful as you are.
Was there any, because you played both positions, I think people forget that you played defensive back before you moved to running back. When you were watching Christian Gray in that game, was there something specific that he was doing that you were like, okay, this is something simple that he can clean up, and then he makes the big play at the end of the game? I was a little upset, right? Because he runs it back for 99 yards. And I'm like, yo, give him a couple plays off, because smartly, USC sees him out on the field and they run him deep the very next play and complete a pass because he's exhausted. But is there anything technique-wise that you saw in that game that you felt like, okay, this is just Christian, either just being in his mind, or if he just cleans this up, he's going to be fine?
Well, and this is something he's done, throughout the year. He sits on routes, and he has his eyes in the backfield. And again, when you're playing against a bigger receiver, you got to body him up, because if you're not able to stay in phase with him, you're going to give yourself less of a chance to be successful. And but I never saw him get down on himself. You never saw him second guess himself. He played his technique. He adjusted. And that was the thing that impressed me the most. Instead of I remember we played Stanford my sophomore year, and we're playing against Ed McCaffrey. This dude is 6'7". I'm 5'7", and we're playing man. And it's are you freaking kidding me? Just jump ball. They just threw it up. Never got any safety help. We're just in man, and I'm like, can we play a little zone somewhere along the line to give me a cover 3,
right.
Off coverage. And I got discouraged, but again, I kept battling. We wound up, winning, but we actually lost that game, which is depressing to even think about. But what I saw with Christian Gray is this kid kept battling. And on that interception, if you saw, he was in phase with the receiver, running, kept him up, kept him on his upfield shoulder, and didn't let him. And when the receiver fell, he was in a position to make a play. So he was able to, again, fight. He kept fighting, turn, and he made a ridiculous play on that football because he was off balance because the receiver failed and kind of tripped him up.
And he kept his feet. I was like, yo, yeah,
I'm like,
crazy.
First of all, you catch the ball, and secondly, how you have the wherewithal to stay up, and that goes to a mentality, that compete, fight, stay after mentality that you have to have as a defensive back. You cannot go in there thinking, you get beat, you got to come back and line up and play another down. You get beat, you got to come back. You got to have a short memory as a defensive back. Otherwise, man, you get in your own head. He did not do that. Because that was the first time I've seen him challenged to that extent where guys were, taking him to the woodshed for all intents and purposes. And then you was like, dang, because you would think they would go after the true freshman in Leonard Moore.
No, they were 2 for 10. They were 2 for 10, but they kept going. They tried him. He just kept showing up.
Yeah.
He kept, I think he had 6 PBUs. They were 2 for 10 when they threw at him.
Yeah. And again, they kept going. And Christian, like I said, again, because that was kind of how this wasn't nothing new. Because when they moved him up and he worked his way up, when Ben Morrison was, nobody was throwing to Ben Morrison.
No.
It's just like, leave him alone.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not the first time he was picked on, coming into the game.
The irony of this, he struggled in that Texas A&M game early, and then made the big play at the end of that game. Exactly. That's the type of kid he is. Yeah. Mentality. Yeah.
So you see that, and you're like, all right, we're good there. That's what I said. Our secondary is ridiculous, and that's the thing. Like I said, and that's where you would kind of consider: would we want to play somebody like a Arizona State versus Alabama? Because we've given up some plays in the run game, and Milroe is a running quarterback. And if they come up, they come up here, it's likely to be snowing and cold, which I'm a big fan of. But but that's again, I'd love to see a passing Southern team.
Yeah,
if you will, because
come up.
Yeah, because again, we're gonna tackle. Whoever it is, tackling will be at a premium. And like I said, this is the best tackling defense I've seen under Coach Freeman and under Kelly since that 2012 season.
You've been talking about development. National Signing Day was on Wednesday. Once again, Reggie Brooks, the great Reggie Brooks, joins us right here. Lucky Lefty, players only. Jerron Jones should be along shortly. A lot of people in the fan base are not too happy with the 25 recruiting class. And I think in comparison to the 2 previous classes from Marcus Freeman, I can understand that, especially with some misses at wide receiver, the decommitment of Deuce Knight, which you guys had fun with in our text thread, you and O, talking about that one. And, I can understand why the narrative or the fallout from it is, oh man, this class isn't good, But I really think the development, and not only the development, something Marcus Freeman talked about, the evaluation. Like, I think this staff has earned some trust when it comes to evaluation. Like, stop looking at stars and rankings and trust Mike Mickens' evaluation. Trust Marcus Freeman's evaluation. Trust Mike Denbrock's evaluation, who I can honestly say Mike Denbrock, without saying no to some people, kind of was like, no, it's not the right fit. And those are the things you have to trust. You have to trust this coaching staff and their track record of not only evaluation, but development. When you look at the current team, because like you said, the plethora of injuries that they have suffered to still be playing as well as they're playing, like, you can only get that from evaluation and development.
Well, and another thing is, like, I never get into the recruiting classes because, again, I don't know. It doesn't matter till you get on campus because you don't know what you're getting.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're getting because each person is different. And last time I checked, Notre Dame was not the only one recruiting these kids. So this expectation that, Notre Dame shouldn't miss on this, they should have no, you have to recruit kids, and Notre Dame is not for everybody. And there's nothing wrong with that. So, but the kids that you get their butts ready to play. And like you said, track record is, you look at, offense, defense, these guys are ready to play. I will say it's going to be interesting to see how things play out from a receiver standpoint, because I still feel that that's an area that we need to improve on. And it's, to me, it's not just about bodies and getting play. We need guys that can create separation in a route. That is, and Jaden Greathouse, he's shown that he's capable of doing that. Tight end. Oh gosh, 88. That
Mitch
guy.
Evans.
Mitch.
Evans, yeah.
He's shown that he can do that. But the consistency hasn't been there with that group. Faison, Jordan, he's shown that he can create separation in a route. So that, to me, is, again, with that development, the continued improvement, and getting the quarterback in sync through practice, through winter conditioning, and developing a rapport, that will come. But, I mean, if you look at the offensive line and how they've improved, you look at the running back stable is ridiculous. Defensive line, we've been really solid. I mean, I would like to get a couple of more, middle guys that can middle rush guys. But linebackers, they've played extremely well. I mean, Drake Bowden, come on. That kid's a monster.
Another kid that people looked at his ranking and said, "Oh, he's slow."
Yeah. That got, and you look, and then the secondary, speaks for itself. So I agree completely. They can say what they want, but as long as, again, I only concern myself with the kid once they're on campus, and also, again, that they are able to, and this tends to, no one really cares about this, but how do they assimilate within the community that they're in? What level of adjustment? And then, when they transition out, I say, hey, do they have a support system? They need a support system when they come to a school and as they matriculate through, and your performance, that impacts that. Because you got to go to class, you got to compete in the classroom, you got to go compete on the field. And nobody has mentioned this, but when these kids aren't going to go home, there's a good chance that they play well. They've been there since August. And as this season progresses, when do they get to go home? When do they get to be around their family?
If they make a run,
yeah,
you're right. I guess spring break will probably be the next time they get to go home.
Yeah, and again, I bring that up because we're talking about people get way too involved in the recruiting side of things. Like I said, as you said, Denbrock's like not a good fit, and that's okay. It's not a good fit. It's not for you. But the people that are signing, that are coming, that's who you got. And in this 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, that doesn't mean jack. Because all they send you is their highlight reels. I want to know, how do you handle difficult, challenging situations? What was your worst game, and were you able to overcome it? And we've been talking about this kid, but Christian Gray, you getting your butt handed to you. How do you handle adversity?
Yeah.
Because as this playoff goes, that's who wins championships. The individuals that handle the adversity it's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming, whether you want it to or not. You're
going
to have to deal with
sports and in life. Let them know.
Exactly.
Sports and life. It's coming.
It's happening.
Yes.
I want somebody that I can count on that's going to stand up and say, hey, I got you back. I'm with you. That, like I said, in sports and in life. And that's what I said. Sports are a great life lesson. If you can manage the difficult struggles of sport and have that mental toughness, it'll help you in life. use those same skills that you're developing as a student athlete and apply those in wherever you go. People will follow you because they're looking for leaders and people that handle adversity, that can process information quickly, that can work within a team, that understand that, hey, if something happens, I got to be able to react to it and address conflict and address stress. Because I can still remember, I said, when I was playing, I didn't know it was this, but I was at a state of heightened aggression and awareness. And it came from sport. But again, that's something when you see a problem, you adapt to it, adjust, make a correction.
Mm-hmm.
That's not everybody can do that. So the only people I know that are coming in are the few guys that are my teammates' kids, and they're some of their teammates, their kids. So other than that, hey, we get who we get. I know they're gonna get coached up and be ready to play.
You know, I know your former teammate, his Raging Cajuns, your boy Jeff Burris. They're in the championship game for their conference tonight. Yeah. Shout out to Coach Burris. He's been on our show before. Like Coach O, Big O, his squad is coaching. We see Notre Dame people coaching. I didn't know who did I see? I didn't know Hines Ward was at Arizona State.
Arizona State,
okay.
Yeah.
So that leads into what you were talking about. You got likes of Jerome Bettis Jr. and Elijah Burris, and the recent 26 commitment from Thomas Davis Jr.
Jim Flanagan's son.
Jim Flanagan, yes. And he's
yeah, he's real deal.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He could probably play tight end or defensive end. He's that good.
It was just crazy because again, he's taller than his dad. I'm like Flan, what happened, man? Where did all this height come from? And the athleticism.
Yeah.
I let him know because like where'd your wife must have been an athlete because
no, we sprinkled a little bit of that Chicago dust on him while he was here, That's all we did. We just sprinkled a little Chicago.
Yeah. I'm like, this
gave a little blessing.
Athletic. I said, I don't remember Flan being athletic. I'm like, where'd that come from?
Oh man. But talk about that pipe. What is it? Is there something that allows NFL pedigree to be a really good fit at Notre Dame? Is it something that they have or that they understand about the game itself or the discipline that allows them to be able to really integrate themselves into what everybody knows is a totally different atmosphere?
Well, I think that's where it is. It's a different dynamic. And, pro athletes, played at the highest level. And, you got guys that played, like Jerome. JB, I can imagine what he's telling JB Jr. He's in a different position, but it's like it's life after you play.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be with you after you play, because again, most guys, they finished playing in their late 20s, early 30s. That's still a lot of life left to live. What are you going to do with yourself? And having that mindset to, like I said, the importance of community, the importance of family. Because again, I know Jerome, so I can speak again his family. There's value in that. And again, Notre Dame is like family. People that will look out for you. Brian Young. I look at Flanagan, and I look at these guys and their kids now, but it's like they know, hey, regardless of what happens, there's a community that's willing to support you beyond your time playing. And I think that's where, and again, I'm not saying that doesn't happen at other schools, but that's a focus of at least guys from my era. That is a primary focus, that we do something that's going to benefit you and your children beyond your time, at Notre Dame. And it's not just, for me, it's not just the guys that play professionally and the guys that their kids that come and play at Notre Dame. It's the daughters. I mean, JB has a daughter there, Tracy Graham.
Mm-hmm.
children of former players understand that, like, my kids didn't go to Notre Dame. Well, because they like big cities. They like Chicago, which I still don't understand why, but Chicago, Notre Dame is not a big city place. I mean, I'm having Chicago. I'm sorry. My two girls are there and they love it to death. I just can't do that traffic. Just can't. That Chicago traffic is just insane. I mean, it takes an hour to go 10 miles. An hour.
I think you're talking about LA. Come on now.
No.
It's not as bad as LA. It's nowhere near LA traffic or New York traffic. It's bad. It can be bad, especially during rush hour in the morning. I agree.
If you have rush hour, you should at least have more than one lane open. I'm just saying.
Now, see, that's the problem. I do believe they need to add more lanes. Absolutely.
It's it's not like you got 5 people living in Chicago. Yeah. It's like if you're gonna have people living there, at least let them have a way to get around at a brisker pace. And again, it's not LA. LA it takes an hour to go for a mile. So that's a whole different animal. LA does not even count. It just don't even count. But you say that and you see again, just seeing that these young men that come to Notre Dame, the young women, and I'm having daughters, I look at them as my nieces and nephews because again, I know what the challenges that they're going to face, and it just you talk about NFL guys that they're better prepared to handle, and they also understand the opportunities that are afforded to you at Notre Dame, because it is different. And I said you have to work within a system, and discipline is key. Because most guys know if you're going to play at a high level, you got to be disciplined, and that's a big part of what makes Notre Dame different. Is in discipline is a part of not just the play, the athletics, but discipline in the classroom. I mean, you're going to be challenged mentally, physically, spiritually, and that's a good thing. And I think parents that have played at a high level, played a sport at a high level, they get that, and they're like, okay, I want my kid to go here because the things that are afforded to them.
So I think one of the things, as we kind of put a bow on this developmental thing from National Signing Day, one of the things that we can really focus on moving forward is that in the 26th class, we know that the wide receiver situation that you pointed out, they went big time. Mike Brown came in late. He was hired during bowl prep last year. He comes in, really doesn't have a relationship with the 25 class. He's trying to build on the fly. They have a lot of departures from the wide receiver room because of situations. No need to get into that. And I said from that time, I'm going to judge Mike Brown by the 26th class as far as recruiting. Sure. We knew they had to go to the portal for this season. And we knew in doing that the biggest thing for him would be the development of Micah Gilbert, Cam Williams, and the rest of those young receivers that need to show up next year unless they go back to the portal and maybe grab another receiver, impact receiver if they can get one. But ultimately, it's going to be development of Cam Williams, Jaden Greathouse, Faison, and all these young wide receivers going into year 2 and year 3. All right, now let's see what we have. That's at the top of the list for me. And then his 26th class, it's time to show and prove.
Well, and I'm going to say the fact that the quarterback of the future is on the roster.
Yes, that's what Marcus King said.
I'm going to say now that with that, you're going to have a full year of those guys being together, eating, meetings, hanging out. Mm-hmm. That will have a huge impact on how well those receivers do, because it was a lot of misses in terms of throws that were off, maybe some miscommunication. That will be addressed over the course of the spring and the summer that will have a huge impact on the success of the passing game going into next year.
You know what? I never looked at it like that. And they have been there though. See, Malik has constantly, and he's taken a lot of vitriol from Notre Dame fans for talking about, I just thought he was being a homer. It wasn't really until you said that. I just thought, oh, Malik's just sticking up for his day one Notre Dame quarterbacks that were recruited and committed and been there. But the chemistry that just comes with, being around each other for multiple years, knowing each other, being able to recognize movements and timing and things of that nature, instead of having somebody come in a portal situation, trying to learn all of that on the fly. And then your current quarterback gets injured in the spring, doesn't have that time, and then has to come in fall camp, and he's sharing reps, in a supposed competition. It was a very difficult, I always thought it was a very difficult situation for Riley Leonard, and by that same equation, you could say it was a very difficult situation for the wide receivers as well.
And the tight ends.
And the tight ends. Yeah. You just said that
Evans had, this year. And he just it's got better, but it makes a huge difference with rapport. And I've always said offense is about timing, and this is in getting into a rhythm.
Yeah.
And it's not just a rhythm of running routes and it's not 3-step and get it out, but it's rhythm with each other. There's as I guess it would be called a vibe now in this vernacular of this generation. It's a vibe.
Don't let your girls hear you say that.
Yeah, we have it because I just remember, again, I could look at my quarterback and Rick, and I knew where he was mentally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
His state of being. And that even to this day, I know, again, hey, if he's kind of intense, relaxed, you develop a rapport that goes beyond the field. Look at Cincinnati, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. They know each other.
Yeah, going back to college, yeah.
Yeah, they know each other. And again, they hang out. There's a communication, there's a connectedness that comes from playing together, but also having those times when you're like off the field, away from the field, whatever you do, that kind of like your downtime, having that connectedness makes a huge difference, especially offensively, in developing a rhythm and a cadence with the running backs, with the receivers, with the tight ends, with the offensive line. It all has to work together. And if one person is a little bit off, it only takes one person. It requires 11 guys executing. And that's why I said with the offensive line, as these guys have gotten, been able to practice together and bond, they've gotten better.
Yeah. And
that is something that translates to any position, any side of the ball, that if you don't have it, that's why I say I can't be upset with Riley Leonard, because he was being developed too. He was learning just like everybody else was, and he didn't have the time with those guys. Makes a difference.
Makes a huge difference. And like I said, Reg, until you said that, I guess it is a benefit, because I think I think Left's point always was, just go ahead and start the clock now, especially with this schedule. Just play one of these youngsters now, either play Steve, and let's just start the clock on our own quarterback starting to develop. And Marcus Freeman bought this team one more year, and I think it was a really good bet, because I think he had a different impact than Sam Hartman for a lot of different reasons, like his athleticism. I think the way he ingratiated himself, that was always something I couldn't put my finger on. There was always something about Sam Hartman in Notre Dame. Nothing against Sam Hartman. It was just like, all right, this fit is not, just doesn't seem to work.
Well,
but Riley Leonard always seemed like, of course, the connection with his grandfather playing for the program and always being a Notre Dame family. Okay, break it down, Red. I want to hear this.
With Sam, you know, great guy, but he digressed over the course of his time in Notre Dame. He didn't get better. His play, you know, didn't, you know, elevate.
Yeah.
You look at Riley Leonard, when Riley stopped trying to be something that he wasn't, because again, he had this perception of Notre Dame. You know, a lot of people have a perception of Notre Dame. It's once you get in there and realize that, again, this is not like some posh club, you know, this is not a, you know, a country club. I mean, you got to work your butt off. There are expectations, but there's also people that genuinely care about you, not what you can do, but you as a person. And it's having that opportunity to find yourself and who you are. Because until he started to really lean into his faith, he wasn't too sure about it because he didn't know anybody. But as he got to know and became more engaged with the university and the inner workings of it and the people, he's like, oh, wow, these kind of blue collar folks. And it's a little bit different. So I don't have to put on this persona. I don't have to put on this air of being somebody that I'm not. And as I've seen him develop and grow is because he's being himself. You know, and he's not trying to press and he's not trying to force it. When he stopped trying to force being a leader, and I agree that he shouldn't have been a captain, but not for the reasons that Lefty talked about. For me, it was that's putting added pressure on him.
Absolutely.
To kind of lead of what it means to be a captain. You don't know that because you're just now developing as a member of the team and giving him that, you know, leeway to say, okay, hey, we don't need you to direct and lead, you know, because you got a C on your chest. We need you to lead by being you. The best way you can lead this offense is to be you. I mean, what he did with the NIL, impressive. Trying to get something that really he didn't need to do. You saw progression because he became more comfortable with himself, and it is showing on the field. Like with Sam, yeah. I think it was the opposite. He pulled away. He wasn't as, you know, you would seem, and you know, he was a lot more reserved, and that may have been his personality. But you know, with Riley, I mean, I met the kid multiple times, and you know, I hit it off with him because, you know, he was like, I don't want to wear the red jersey. He wanted, you could see it in him. He had that, you know, young kid like mentality of, I just want to go out and play.
Right.
And I didn't see that early in the season, but I'm seeing it now. He's just here. I'm glad to be here. And I'm just going to go out and compete with my teammates and have fun.
Right.
Whatever happened to that, Shaun? Whatever happened to having fun in the game? It's a game, right?
You know what, Reg? I was talking to my godson this morning. Him and his dad stopped by right before we came on. He took the SAT at a high school near my house, and they were like, "Yo, we're gonna stop by." And he plays lacrosse and baseball in the city. And so we were just talking about how things have changed in the city for like baseball and other sports. And I was like, "Yo, I actually have profound respect for you guys because sports and life for us was much more black and white back in the day. Everything is so specialized now. We didn't have a PO position. Now they have guys that just pitch only. They don't hit. They just pitch. And I'm like, what is that? Like, when did we start having kids that don't hit and pitch in high school games? But this is like that colorful evolution of everything in life, right?
Remember, the fact that he's playing more than one sport, that's impressive.
Now,
And
that
like I said,
too,
it specialized so early.
Right.
You can't play that. You can't do that.
Yeah,
Like,
and
wow.
it's absolutely crazy that you talk about that. What do you think about Deion Sanders has said that and promoted that he's going to have even more players after Travis Hunter leaves playing both ways?
I don't have a problem with it, be honest with you. I mean, if they have the capacity to do it,
Does that help? Does that help a program if you can have some elite players playing both ways? Does that help your overall depth, or does that hinder it?
Your best player should be on the field on whatever side of the ball. Then you got multiple people that can play multiple positions on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
And if they can do it,
yeah.
I mean, okay. I mean, back in the day when you're in high school,
that's what you did, right? That's what you did.
Why is it such a, like, oh my gosh, don't do that? Why? When did it become? I mean, that was a common thing.
The thing about it is now that the money is starting to be more prevalent for these players. That's shocking to me that Deion Sanders would say, "Oh yeah,
I'm gonna get my money.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead. Yeah, I'm gonna get 100. I'm gonna get 100 plays per game out of this if I'm paying.
I gotta get the most bang out from a buck. I ain't mad at him. Shoot. Hey, and again, now they paying him like, hey, you no longer on. You're not just on the roster. You're on the payroll.
You're on the payroll. Yes, sir.
Hey, I ain't mad at him on that one
because he got every penny out of Travis Hunter. He got every penny
and then some,
and then some out of Travis
and
Hunter.
then some. Because man, this dude was averaging 100-something snaps a game. 100+ snaps a game.
What did you average? About 50, 60?
About 60. About 60. Because again, we ran the ball, so we were, downhill. You running, blocking, but you were getting after it. So, but I mean, just that many. I mean, that is beyond insane. It really is. The fact that he was averaging over 100 plays a game. That's ridiculous.
Crazy. That's crazy. I want to play you a clip from Marcus Freeman on National Sign today where he was talking about how everything has changed. And I want to ask you a question after we hear from Coach Freeman right here.
The thing that's changed is, when they moved the signing day up a week and it's dead for us, once the season's over, once week 12 is over, that's changed a lot because usually right after the last game of the season or week 12, you can go on the road and see all these families and see the guys that you think you're going to sign. And that's made it more important than anything that we continue to have these relationships, through FaceTimes, through Zooms, see the guys that you can during the season, and then make sure there's no surprises on signing day.
And how different is it, I guess, to evaluate a signing day, or how much fluidity is there because of the transfer portal, because the calendar has changed? I think the calendar, a coach told me this morning, has changed every single year since COVID. There hasn't been the same calendar once.
Yeah, I think, to each football program their own. For us, the value of high school recruiting is utmost importance. We're going to be a program that builds its foundation based off high school recruiting, and we will supplement recruiting with the transfer portal. But I never want to be a football program that majors in the transfer portal. We will minor in it at specific positional needs. But this is a huge day for us, and it's so important because this is what's going to be the foundation of this football program, is the way we recruit in high school, the way we identify the needs that our program has, and the way we develop these guys.
Now I want to build this out for you, Reg, because we know that the schedule has always been Notre Dame ends the season on the West Coast, right?
Mhm.
There was a weather reason for that. There was a business reason for that. There was a brand reason for that. But there was also a huge recruiting reason for that, because Notre Dame would end and literally hit the state of California to seal the deal on top talent out there and in the Western time zone. With everything that has changed now, the calendar has changed. The portal opens up right after National Signing Day. Do you see this possibly affecting that tradition of Notre Dame ending the year on the West Coast, since they no longer have to recruit after that final game on the West Coast, since they don't get that? Do you think it's eventually going to affect the scheduling for Notre Dame and maybe not going out to the West Coast to end like they traditionally have done? And then the way the landscape is done, you have been involved from an administrative standpoint. As someone that's been part of administration, with the ever-changing calendar and landscape, would you even be interested in having any parts of present-day college football from an administrative standpoint?
I would say I would, just from the simple fact that understanding, again, knowing the program, our program as it relates to Notre Dame athletics. I would not be in favor of not having that West Coast trip, because it's not just, the opportunity to recruit. It's also an opportunity for the folks that you recruit to come and see their children. I remember we would go out to LA, parents would come to the hotel and provide Thanksgiving dinner for us.
Right.
And what makes Notre Dame special is the national recruiting. And I know everybody say they recruit nationally, but Notre Dame has to. We have such a broad fan base too. That's another thing. It's like, it's not just, the recruiting aspect of it. Is there's a strong fan base in the western side of the
zone.
country.
Yeah.
That
Arizona's huge.
Yeah.
California's huge.
California.
Yeah.
Nevada starting to
boom.
Colorado. So there's a huge fan base that if you're not going out west, they're coming to South Bend is not for everybody.
You're neglecting. Yeah.
So I think that, for me, again, just from as an administrator and also as an alum, I think part of the lure of Notre Dame is it's that barnstorming approach. Now, I will say I could see, the issue of being able to, schedule a Stanford and, USC, being the issue would not be because Notre Dame doesn't want it to be. It's, with the schedule changes and the, conference changes, that's going to eventually impact, who we can play, because as the Big Ten grows, as the SEC grows, ACC, you're going to get a more limited. Nobody's going to want to do a 1-1. I mean, a home and home with those out of conference games.
Yeah, they want the tradition was, even when you guys would go out to USC, the 2 years you went out to USC to end the season, they still had to play UCLA the following week.
Correct.
They moved the UCLA game in front of you guys. I think they did that
about it. Was it USC or was it the conference? See, that's the thing that people get. Like, when you were more regional, you had a little more, schools had a lot more say over their scheduling. But now, with the conferences becoming such a force, in particular the SEC and the Big Ten, those, because again, who runs college athletics? It's not the teams, it's not the conferences,
right?
It's the media.
The meeting, yeah.
Because if I'm paying this money,
Yeah,
I want to see in-conference games, so I can see them trying to expand the number of conference games that conferences have to play and reducing those out-of-conference games. And so if you have an out-of-conference game, do you want to play a Notre Dame or, a Mountain West school where, again, you're not having, it doesn't have to, because normally I said if you're scheduling a game, you got to do a home and home.
right.
If you're scheduling a game with any of the power conferences, is a home and home. But with these smaller schools, you can just pay them a couple of dollars and they come to your place. And again, that's revenue for your institution. And again, I just go back to Florida's schedule this year. Their non-conference schedule was not great for them.
No.
It was pretty brutal. So, but was that the SEC that dictated that, or was it the university?
Yeah.
Now, I would say again, the conferences get to dictate the conference schedule, but the non-conference games, you got to play who you can get. You're able to play.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I don't think Notre Dame would ever push to end that rivalry or that opportunity to go out on the West Coast. I think it's going to be more driven by, USC's commitment to being a member of the Big Ten.
Notre Dame has a chance going into this transfer portal, as it opens up. Like you said, the calendar has changed every year of Marcus Freeman's tenure. They're going to be aggressive. I think wide receiver is a position, once again, like you said, that they need to improve. They need to go get somebody that can separate, from defenders. They also need to go, I think they would prefer to go get bigger bodies that can separate, because they have smaller guys already in the offense that can separate. But they do have Michael Gilbert and Cam Williams that are bigger body receivers.
Yeah. But again, I just remember, like I said, watching, like the Playmaker and Michael Irving, Alvin Harper, and Jerry Rice, and like I said, seeing those guys were big receivers.
Carl Pickens, somebody you
did a great job of separating in their routes because they were so physical. Like I said, I don't want to go out and get a big body and they still can't separate.
Yeah.
So that is, I think that has to be the primary focus of, creating separation in the routes. Because I always go back to, when, the tight end before we just lost, just left. He's
Michael Mayer.
Michael Mayer.
Yeah.
Why was he able to get separation consistently? And the receivers weren't. It was just mind-blowing to watch how he would stem routes and drive the defender and get him on his back and then break away. Again, a little push off, but again, he did it within the confines of the route.
Yeah.
And as I said, and again, and I've seen our guys that have gotten separation, but Riley missed the throw. So you got to have them on the same page to where the ball is going where the quarterback expects you to be, but also as a receiver, you need to expect to be there too, because that's where the ball is going. And I think that plays into that, that connectedness of the receiver and the quarterback to where the routes are run properly, but also the quarterback is getting the ball where where the ball is expected to be, not just throwing it somewhere.
Yeah. Oh man,
we got to be on the same page to get that.
Yeah, we have a very good question here from Richard Head. Thank you for the GTB question, Richard. Sean, do they still do in-home visits? Don't recall any taking place this year. That is what was eliminated. That would be the week after the USC game. That is when the head coach would go and do his in-home visits to be able to close the deal for National Signing Day that was coming up in February, because I think then it was a dead period up until.
No, they definitely still do home visits, and and I think that's where Marcus is shines. Because you see a an individual that, again, it comes back to like people want to know that you actually are going to take care of my child.
Facts.
And there's going to be people around because, you know, at the end of the day, yeah, you can have this agreement and that agreement, but the majority of parents are thinking, you know, what's best. Because I know a lot of guys, again, that have no I mean, this recruiting process now is so different from when we came along. Yeah. It's just a different dynamic. So what is in the best interest of my child is a paramount for a lot of parents. And like I said, I have the opportunity of speaking to family members that are on campus of former players, current players. And, you know, and I try to impress upon them again, you know, it's not about, you know, them performing on the field. It's okay. Hey, this is someone's child. And at the end of the day, you want someone that cares about that child as if they were their own. And that's the sense you get from this coaching staff, you know, and I know the guys that are in Coach McCullen's, you know, their meeting room, they know that man cares about them.
Facts.
Players. And the parents know that they care about this man. And that is a reflection of the head coach.
It's funny that you mentioned that as we get ready to lead you guys into this big SEC matchup that may have some connection to whether or not Notre Dame can get up to that 5th spot or remain at the 6th spot, because the loser of this SEC championship game, most people think, will end up in the 5th spot. And I'll get your prediction for this game, Reg, as we lead people into that game. But you talk about that, and I think at Notre Dame, as far as the transfer portal, you don't see a lot of people jumping into that portal, at least not until they're in line to get that degree. So that is something that you talk about in the culture of Notre Dame football that they really don't have to deal with at the same magnitude as others. On the flip side, getting in transfers is a little bit more difficult than it is for public schools. And I remember looking at the names as they began to filter into the transfer portal over the last week. And I started to see so many kids that were either really interested in Notre Dame or had Notre Dame higher on their list, but they chose to go to other schools, and now they're in the portal after 2 years. My question to you is, you were talking about parents. What questions would you advise parents now to ask as they accompany their children onto these official visits and unofficial visits to these campuses? Because NIL seems to be the first thing that a lot of parents want to ask about, right? And then your child is in the portal 2 years later. Like, I want my child to be somewhere, like you said, where I feel comfortable that the coach is going to take care of them, of where they're going to get a great education. And from a football standpoint, that I know that they are a fit. Is this the right fit for my child on the field as far as the coaching staff and moving forward? And I don't know if I think people get so caught up in NIL. What can you give us now? What are you going to give us, instead of playing the big picture, looking down the road to say, okay, what's in the best interest of the full development of my young man or young lady as they go on to this institution?
Well, I think that, you know, first question that, you know, I would ask is, you know, what are the, you know, what's the graduation rate? And
well, I know a lot of people are not asking that question.
Yeah,
I know.
what's the graduation rate of your school? Because again, you can have a kid that can get into school, but they're failing because, again, they're not being, you know, pressed to go to class. And again, the on the academic side, again, you have to, it's a preparedness of, again, what's to come after. So yeah, NIL, what's the NIL contract? That's important because that's money.
Right.
But along with that,
yeah,
will my child learn how to manage these resources that are coming their way? And is there someone that they can go to develop? And just because development as an athlete, there's also development as a person beyond the sport. And how effective will they be? and understanding that, like I said, if you graduate, not only after you graduate, what is the rate of, finding employment?
Yeah.
Because they, oh gosh, what's the College News World Report? The value of this education is how well you do after you've gotten this degree.
Yeah.
So what is that? That's my first two questions: is what is your graduation rate for your student athletes, not for the school, but for the student athletes, and what is the likelihood and pay scale of them after they've graduated?
It's so funny.
Degree.
A great example of that. You go watch Tyson Ford's mother and the way she still speaks about Notre Dame. When she found out that he was in line to get that degree, it was like, yeah, he's in the portal. He's not playing football there, but this right here means more than anything.
Yeah.
Like, I want him to realize his dreams and on the field, but my son got a degree from the University of Notre Dame. Like, as a mother, man, she was beaming, and you could feel it through social media. Like,
and
I think that's
even on from an alumni standpoint.
Yes,
that is
because he's still a Notre Dame man, no matter what.
That's a done deal.
Yeah,
and again, and also, how do you help these young men and women leverage that network?
Mm-hmm.
I think that is probably the most paramount question to ask is, again, how are you preparing them to leverage the network that they're going to become a part of? Because without that, you can get the degree from Notre Dame and it'll get you interviews, but it's more about who you know than what you know a lot of times when you're making that next step. And then how do you engage that network? What are you doing to prepare yourself to be a part of it? Because it's different.
Yeah. Yeah.
And helping them navigate that part of it is paramount because, this is what I get. So you get, a couple of $100,000 a year in your NIL. So when you're not getting that after you finish playing, where are you at then? What's the game plan? Because you've this way of life you've established is for 3-4 years, maybe 5.
Mm-hmm.
But when those years that institution are up, did you get that degree and do you still have that money? And are you still, because again, once the NIL is up, you're on your own.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. All right, Georgia, Texas.
Let's go.
Who you got? Who you got, Reg? Either someone's gonna do it again, Kirby. They're gonna take down Sark and his Longhorns again down in Atlanta, or do you see Sark figuring things out and having the answers for the Bulldogs?
Again, and Georgia has been the most frustrating team all year. It's been so up and down. And it's like, who's going to show up? If the Georgia that they're capable of being shows up, it's going to get ugly. But yeah, because you got to remember, Carson Beck he's on one right now. He's playing a lot better.
You know what? That Carson Beck, when he catches the heater, he caught the heater against Alabama. He caught the heater late against Tennessee. He caught the heater late against Georgia Tech.
Yeah. And so he's playing well right now. So that if he's still on that heater I don't know. I mean,
but Texas, he can turn it over too now.
Right.
He can turn it over.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's like you don't know what you're gonna get. And again, it goes back to the quarterback position. That position is critical.
Yeah.
And if you have someone that's hit and miss. But that Georgia defense has been pretty consistent. Now I will say again that I'm not sure Texas is as physical as Georgia Tech. And that's the difference to me, is the physicality in which Georgia plays defensively. They will come after your behind. And have you heard of if ETN is going to be able to play? Because that will also factor in. Because if Georgia
I like the kid. I like the Frazier kid though.
Yeah. If Georgia can get that running game going, that makes a world of difference for Carson Beck. Because when he's got that play action pass going, he will light you up. Because when he's in rhythm, so I'm going to say I have Georgia, but I can see Texas really getting after it, because Sark is not. He's going to adapt. Sark is going to adapt, and he's going to have to. But I just don't know how they're going to, defend against that rush from Georgia, because that defensive line literally just dismantled them. That was just bad.
Yeah, that is something that I think if Texas can match the physicality of Georgia, then it's a different dynamic. But Texas has to run the ball too. They cannot be one dimensional in this game.
If they're allowing the pin back, bend their ears back, it's a wrap.
Yeah. And the defense is the same way. Look, UMass ran the ball like crazy against Georgia the week before Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech comes in with their quarterback who did not play against Notre Dame, in all fairness.
And that dude balled out. But not only that, Georgia Tech, their head coach's offensive lineman.
Yes.
And he's about, even when we played him, again, we beat him, but that was a physical football game.
Yeah. Very physical football game, but once again, this is the dynamic of Georgia. Georgia is the only team. Because I tell people this, and it's hard for them to understand, because Georgia has been so Jekyll and Hyde up and down, right? So I understand why I don't get this. And I tell people all the time, Georgia is the only team. And I believe it's a weakness of theirs, because they know they have that switch. You know how a team knows they can turn it on?
Miami's offense with Cam Ward.
Oh, that's a good point. But Georgia has actually won. They actually have players on the roster that have won championships. So they really believe that they are the best. Like, they walk into the field knowing, like, we don't have to prove it. We feel like we're the best team.
Proven it.
Yes.
We've already proven it.
And so they depend on that switch. And sometimes because they'll get down, or they won't play to their best and be consistent. And then next thing you know, they get them in trouble. So that is something that I try to tell people. The one team I wouldn't want to play outside of Oregon is just their receivers, because I think their receivers are just as talented as USC's.
Agreed.
The only team I wouldn't want to play just from a matchup standpoint would be Georgia, because of the O-line. But the O-line has played so much better.
Yeah, but
we're probably. But I'm telling you, man, Georgia has a switch that once they hit it, are you able to hold them off? The Notre Dame will be
not that defensive line.
Yeah, Notre Dame will compete. No, Notre Dame will compete. I have no problem. Notre Dame can compete with anybody.
Again, but I cannot see them holding up against that defensive line of Georgia's. That defensive line is insane.
But I can see Carson Beck throwing us a couple. I can see that. I can see that.
No, if you get the Carson Beck of it depends on what side of the bed he wakes up on.
Yeah,
because he will beat them, but he will also win the game if he's in one of those moods. He will light you up.
Yeah,
but I'm going with Georgia just because, again, he's been playing well. And again, that Georgia defensive line is ridiculous. And again, until Texas's offensive line shows me different, I mean, that was the difference.
Yeah, I think Reg froze.
In that game,
Yeah,
period.
yeah. And I think let's see, I got Ed 3 in the chat talking about Georgia's physicality. Look, man, go watch the end of that UMass game when they finally hit the switch. When they decided to hit the switch. When
Alabama too.
When they hit the switch against Alabama.
Yeah.
When they they didn't just come back on Georgia Tech, they got physical with Georgia Tech. They finally started playing physical football, and all of a sudden, that hit that caused that fumble, that's physical football, bro. We can sit up and debate whether or not it was targeting all of that. That's physical football. That is, and then in the overtime, they refused to allow what was working to work. And I think coaching Kirby was very, very smart to take those timeouts. You get one per period. See what they're doing. Take the timeout, come out, adjust. That's what I'm talking about. They're inconsistent.
It's hard to.
They don't always do it. Yeah, they don't always do it, but they got it in their back pocket. They got it in their back pocket.
Yeah,
they have it in their back pocket.
It's hard to go against Georgia just because, again, they've shown when they're on, when they flip that switch. And again, this is the conference game.
They did the same thing against Tennessee.
Yeah, when
Tennessee came out running the ball early, and then the second half, it was just like
shut it down. And that's why I say again, and this is the conference championship. Georgia has something to prove in that realm.
I think both teams. I'm very interested. I think the quarterbacks, because both quarterbacks played bad in the first matchup. Both played bad.
The thing about it but it was in dead point with Carson Beck, he just crapped the bed. Quinn Ewers was getting his ass handed to him.
That's the difference. You're right. He didn't have a chance. You have a chance, right? That's good.
There's a difference.
Good point. Good point. Good point.
If they can protect Ewers,
yeah.
I think that's a different story.
Yeah.
But Carson Beck, again, they didn't really put pressure on him.
No, he was just throwing it, just bad balls. Yeah.
Bad ball.
Yeah.
That's why I said it's hard to go against Georgia, because if he's comfortable and he's doing what he needs to do, they didn't show that they could pressure him and get him flustered. He just played poorly. Ewers, Georgia did that. That was the direct reflection of Georgia's defensive line wearing his butt out.
Yeah.
That's a different dynamic. It's like both quarterbacks played poorly, but for different reasons.
Yeah. Did you by chance catch both of those guys on College Game Day this morning when they were sitting next to Nick Saban? And they were asking them like, "Yo, what's how you guys preparing for this game?" And they gave coach speak, and Coach Saban's like, they both talking BS right now. That's not the way he said it, but he used the full phrase. He's like, they both bull right now. You know what I'm saying? But Coach Saban, this is why I love Coach Saban, man, because he doesn't get into all the metrics and the color. He was like, "Yo, it's a big game, two good teams, turnovers, plain and simple, turnovers." Whoever commits the most turnovers is probably going to lose this game.
And that's always been controlling the line of scrimmage.
Yes, sir.
Turnovers.
Yes, sir.
Dictate who wins.
Yes, sir.
That's the game is still simple.
Simple. Still simple. Up front, tackling.
Controlling the line of scrimmage.
Yes, sir.
Turnover.
Yes, sir.
As much as the Lefty likes to go the pass, the importance of the pass. It's still a basic.
It is what it is.
It
is what it is. It is what it is, and ain't nothing changing. Right? Exactly. So look, 25 recruiting class. You can be upset about the wide receivers, ladies and gents, but guess what's coming in that O-line room? 6'7", 295, 6'8", 290, 6'7", 295.
Well, I just like what we have now and the success this offensive line is having now. Because I don't trust freshmen. I don't trust freshmen.
No, I'm just talking about from a depth
standpoint.
The room is so
This
much
is what-
bigger than it. The
we're gonna
room
have
is
this
so much
development.
bigger than it was on the. Like they had good offensive linemen, but now they are recruiting massive 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", 6 across the board. Ashton Craig was the smallest at 6'5" at center.
Yeah, no.
You
All
know.
I need to see is, can you don't. I know Rudolph is going to develop you, but can you come in and be okay with learning?
Yeah.
Because that's the one thing that gets me with players that come in and they think, well, I should be starting. Why? Why do you think you should start? Unless, I mean, if you, because again, Christian Gray, he worked his way up into the starting role because Ben Morrison was still playing. So he didn't take Ben Morrison's spot after he got injured. I can remember the kid, good kid. He wound up, he's going to transfer, but he's going to get that degree first. But he took his spot because he worked his way up. So that's my thing. It's like these young folks say, sit down and learn how to play the game at this level.
Yep.
And be okay with that. It's going to benefit you in the long run.
Mm-hmm. All right, give me your final score. We're out of here. We'll be back with you after the game. And then, Reg, you guys want to talk a little something tomorrow after we find out who Notre Dame's going to play?
I'm game.
All right. So, we'll give you guys something after we find out what Notre Dame is, who they're going to play, who's going to be coming to South Bend. By that time, O will be a state champion coach.
Yes.
And we'll celebrate Big O.
We have the trophy and he can bring it on and we can celebrate with it.
Absolutely. So give us your final score, and then we're going to let Notre Dame fans go enjoy this game.
35-17, Georgia.
Okay. Woo! Yeah. You went the other way. Okay, Reg. Well, you heard it here first. Coach Reg, if he's wrong, you can get on him. You can get on him tomorrow, Notre Dame fans. Hey, we appreciate you guys, man. Enjoy your day. As always, make sure you spin it different.